You can't kind of expect to create the prices for the market if they're already created. If people are already used to paying a certain amount, you have to kind of stay within that range to be kind of a competitor.
So I currently own a Sony a6000, which is a mirrorless camera. It has a crop sensor on it, and it's not full frame. So does a full frame camera improve the quality of your real estate photos, and is it necessary to have one to begin with?
Honestly, I don't think so. No, I would say no to both of those. I don't think the full frame really is going to improve the quality all that much because one, it's a Sony, so the ISO capabilities are really good. And two, you're rarely ever in a situation where you have such a dark room that you need a full frame camera. Secondly, sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Like, can you work with a mirrorless? Can you work with a crop sensor? And I think you already kind of answered that, but it's not really necessary because a full frame is expensive, and I see a lot of YouTubers out there suggesting, oh, get a DSLR, get a full frame camera. And I'm just like, I don't have that.
Yeah, let me see if I can show you this guy really quick. Okay. This guy shoots actually on, I think, a Sony a6000 as well. So his name's Rich Baum. He's in Northern California, and he shoots on an a6000, and he shoots on a little tiny Samyang 12 millimeter, and he's able to produce really, really good work, you know, with just a small, cheap camera and a cheap lens.
Wow, that looks amazing. Yeah. Like, I can't even believe it.
Yeah, so there really is no need. Yeah, he's a funny guy, a nice guy.
Yeah.
There's no need really to go straight into full frame.
Another gear question I have is it worth investing in a drone?
You're in Chicago, right?
I am.
Are you more in the city or more like suburban Chicago?
I live in the suburban area, but we definitely do have a lot of listings in the city, and I think it would be a good opportunity to use it in the city just because like if you're shooting for an apartment, I just don't know. Like I see a lot of high-end photographers being successful without a drone, and then I see the other end of them using a drone. So I'm quite unsure, like, should I invest in it now or invest it later down the road? Is it necessary? I don't know.
I think it would depend on your financial situation, because some people, when they hire you, if some people really like drone stuff, some people really don't care for it. So if you offer both photo and drone videos or drone photos, they'd like that they can just come to you for the full package, for just, you know, come to one person for everything and you can handle it all, which will be great if you find those clients. Now, the downside is not only the money spent on a drone, you can spend like up to like $1,000 or something for a decent one. You still have to get your FAA certification. So that can be another couple $100, and not only the money to get certified, but also the time that you have to spend learning all the laws and everything and taking the course and things like that. So it's kind of like a little bit of a longer investment rather than just buying the drone and using it. You can, because legally you can buy it, you know, use it and take photos. But if you're charging somebody else to take the photos, drone images, then you have to be FAA certified, technically.
Do you own a drone? Do you?
Yeah.
And you do video with it, correct?
Correct. We do both photo and video with it.
And do you photograph with a Canon and do video with Sony?
I use all Sony for anything on the ground. So I have a Sony a7 III, a Sony a7S III for both photo and video. And then my drone is a DJI Mavic Air 2.
Gotcha. Wow, I thought you were using a Canon. I'm like, wow, these photographers are using Canon.
No, I used to.
Rarely do you ever see someone with a Sony. So it kind of gives me hope, and I hope other people too, because Canons are very much expensive in comparison to Sony.
Yeah.
But in regards to gear, once you have the gear set in place, how do you begin the process? Like, where do you start? Because I feel like I'm in a place where I'm stuck, and I feel like I'm kind of set up for failure. I feel like I don't know what challenges to expect and how to overcome them. So what did you initially take in the beginning to start real estate photography?
Like, what did I take? Like, what did I study? What did I
Like,
watch?
what did you
Or
do? Yes, so like
yes.
once you had the gear in place, like what was your first thought? Like, did you practice first and then you marketed your work, or
Mhm.
did you go door to door and hand out brochures? Like,
Yeah.
what was the
I'll
process
tell
like?
you, I didn't practice first, but that was a mistake on my end. I should have practiced a whole lot more. This was a couple of years ago, and I thought my work was a whole lot better than it was. If I look back now, the work is just complete crap. But so I would say practice as much as you can. You know, if it's your own house or a neighbor's or friends, whatever it is, get that practice in. And if you can create some portfolio work out of that practice, so just examples to share with people, that's even better. Because I would also suggest that as you're crafting your skills and you're getting better and better and better, you should also be building, you know, a social media page and or a website, if that means, you know, if it's relevant for you. Um, because this is a thing when you're gonna when once you feel like you're capable and you're ready to take on clients, you're gonna reach out to them. And when they say when they if they show interest, they're gonna want to see something of work from you. So you're gonna have to, you know, create a social media page where everything's kind of front and center for them, and just so they can kind of see it, or create a website, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Going back to answer your question to what I did. When I started out, I had a, a poor excuse of a website. I had a Instagram page and a few pieces of example work on there. And I would just network and try and talk to people. And even if I was at like a bar or something, I would just talk to people I didn't know and just kind of discuss and say, hey, look, like, what do you do? And a lot of the times you'll land on somebody who's a real estate agent, and you just kind of get to know them. So I would just network a lot in the beginning. And now, because of COVID, you can't really do that. Um,
Right.
so you kind of have to do it digitally. So I would just suggest, excuse me, just suggest DMing people as much as you can, emailing them. Cold calling isn't my thing, but it might be for you. So if you can cold call, go ahead and cold call.
Right. You did mention about building a website. Is there like did you hire someone for that, or is there like a specific like software you have to use to
Uh-huh.
build a website? How does that work?
Yeah, it could be pretty complicated. There are easier ways to do it. Again, learning from my mistakes, I've changed my website platform like four times. Four times
Wow.
I've changed my website platform, and that was obviously a learning, something I learned from and something that I can pass on to you guys. Nowadays, I use Wix because it's super super easy. Wix.com. You can kind of just drag and drop. As long as you know how to use a computer, you probably know how to use Wix. It's pretty easy. Um, and what I found was when I started out, I built my website on WordPress. It was really hard for me because I'm not a web developer. I'm not a web designer or
Hmm.
anything. It was hard to manage it. It's a lot more clunky, and you have to know what you're doing in terms of coding and things like that.
Yeah.
So I canceled that. I went to Wix, and then I saw somebody else using Shopify and I liked it. So I went to Shopify, which was the wrong platform for real estate stuff. So then I canceled Shopify and then I went back to Wix.
Mm.
So Wix is the place. It's pretty easy. I can send you a link after we get off the call here if you want. That way you can check it out.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. And so after setting up that website and you have these clients, a lot of people wonder, how do you set a reasonable price for your clients or your
Mhm.
agents? Is it
I
high? square foot or by per photo?
Yeah. A lot of people, they charge different ways. What I tried to do was I would just go on Google and I would search Los Angeles real estate photographer. So based
Mm-hmm.
on that search, I would just see, okay, let me open up a new tab for these 5 or 6 different companies or different guys who are shooting. And I would just go and look at their prices on their website. And I'd literally take a pen and paper and I'd say, okay, here's this company. This is what they charge for this square footage or this many photos. And I have them all laid out on a piece of paper that I just wrote on a notepad. And I'd say, okay, in terms of their quality, how good am I compared to them? If they're like way better and they're charging $1,000, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe I can only charge, $200 or something, whatever the case is. So I would just kind of, you can kind of gauge that on your own and kind of decide how good am I compared to these people and where do I need to be in terms of price to kind of compete,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never thought of that. That's actually really smart.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say you can't kind of expect to create the prices for the market if they're already created. If people are already used to paying a certain amount, you have to kind of stay within that range to be kind of a competitor.
Right. That sounds reasonable. What I was gonna say is, do you shoot anything other than real estate? Do you also do interior design or architecture or commercial?
I don't. I would really like to. I would really like to get into interior and architectural work, but I don't. It's just finding the clients for those is going to be a little bit more difficult. It's kind of like for me having to restart. So I'd probably have to do a couple of free shoots just to show what I can do and then try and build that clientele.
Right.
But what I'll tell you, one thing I do, like during the fall and winter, these months, like November to January, real estate slows down a lot. Nobody really wants to move in the middle of Thanksgiving, in the middle of Christmas, things like that. So the market is a little bit slower. So for that reason, I'll say yes to more non-real estate stuff. So a case in point, I went to go scout a location a couple of days ago. A company reached out to me. They want photos of like these wood panels. They sell these wood panels that go on top of like countertops. And they reached out for a quote. So I would normally say no to something like that in like May, June, July, when I'm super busy. I would say no to that. But because work is a little bit slower in these months, I'll say yes, and I'll take something like that on.
Mm-hmm. So then when you give your agent these photos, do you have any way of like, do you have a contract or any licensing that comes into play?
Yeah, so on my website, on the bottom, there's some terms and conditions that I've kind of laid out there. I'm sure, not everybody reads them, but when somebody books an appointment with me, I have an automated email system that'll send them an email and it'll say, hey, look, your appointment is on Monday at 2. This is where it's at. This is what you ordered. Here's the terms and conditions link. If you want to read it, you can click it. Here's an FAQ. You can click that as well. So they have all this information in the email, and it's up to them to read it. So later on down the road, if they try to complain or say something, I say, well, hey, look, you received this email. The terms and conditions are laid out right here. This is what it says. So based on that alone, this is how we're going to go about fixing that.
Right.
So I don't necessarily make them sign a contract, but I do have legal, verbiage that's kind of laid out there.
Yeah. I was gonna ask. Shoot, I forgot.
It'll come back to you.
It will. But speaking of with real estate photos, how quickly are you expected to deliver the photos to your agent? And if so, like what are some ways for them to receive it?
Yeah. People really want fast turnarounds. They become accustomed to it. I used to do like a 2-day turnaround, but nowadays, like the competition is so on it that I have to do like a 24-hour turnaround. So it's kind of hard. You have to shoot, come home, edit, and then send them back out the next day within 24 hours. And on top of that, you have other shoots to do.
Wow.
So people have become accustomed
Right.
to that, and it's kind of hard. The cool thing is, if you need to, you can outsource some of your work to kind of take the load off a little bit. But to deliver, I use Dropbox. Dropbox is what I found to be works the best. I've used in the past, I've used Google Drive, I've used Zenfolio, and there's a few other ones out there that you can use, but I just feel like Dropbox is an easy to use interface that most other people know. So when I send them the stuff, it's pretty easy. They just click 2 buttons and it downloads them for them.
And it takes 24 hours also to deliver a video as well?
Video is about 48 to 72 hours. Yeah, video is a lot more editing.
Color? Yeah, do you do color editing for those too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I need to definitely learn on. And then my last question is, what would a typical week schedule look like? What would be considered over scheduled and what would be considered under scheduled?
I like to have the weekends to myself now. When I was starting, I didn't. So nowadays, an ideal week would be Monday through Friday, probably like, to be on the safe side without being overwhelmed, would be like 2 shoots a day, maybe like 1 video, 1 photo, Monday through Friday. But that's not always typical. What's typical for me right now is more so like I'd probably have 5 photography shoots and maybe like 4 video shoots. So that's probably a little bit more typical. Maybe a little bit less on some days. If I'm under scheduled, then I probably have like, 2 photo shoots and no video. And sometimes it happens, it's not all sunshines and daisies all the time. Sometimes there's weeks where it's just like really slow. I don't have the most filled up schedule, but thankfully I kind of understand that now, and I'm able to like manage my finances to understand that, say, hey, look, even though I'm booked this week, I may not be next week. So I have to kind of understand where I can spend on my business and things like that for that reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a question did pop up really quick about like brochuring, like when you make your own brochure, do you use like a website or are you using an Adobe program? How do you set that up?
Yeah, when I make those now, if I don't do it anymore. It's on Adobe Illustrator.
Okay.
Adobe Illustrator, something, again, self-taught, just kind of putting in the hours to learn. But I think it's a really printer-friendly interface.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, well, that's all that I have for today.
Cool.
I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to ask these questions. I feel like a lot of people who are entering into this field are kind of a little clueless and just overwhelmed by all the different ways you can get started, because every person's different. If you go on YouTube, every photographer has their own way of starting. So
yeah,
that's definitely cleared up my head. So I really appreciate that.
No problem. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a DM or anything like that. I hope I made some solid clarifications for you, but I'll still try to continue to make content to help with that kind of stuff.
Yes, thank you.
All right, no problem. You have a good one.
You too.
Bye.